traditional herbal medicines changed and maybe even saved my life. Now, if you don't know my story, about 15 years ago, after I'd seen all the Ivy League trained specialists in my home state of Connecticut, I had basically abandoned conventional medicine and I went out to see what kinds of alternative or integrative medicine really worked for my GI issues. What I was most impressed with was the herbal formulas from traditional Chinese medicine. It was only those doctors that completely blew my mind with how effective they were clinically. Since then, herbal medicine and traditional herbal formulas are a passion of mine, and many people have asked, how do I get started with learning herbal medicine? I mean, traditional Chinese medicine is extremely complex in the way that we use herbs and the way that we use formulas. But there is a very beginner's guide that I can give you here today that I think will help. We'll show an intro guide to herbal medicine from a Chinese medicine point of view. I'll show you how to brew a basic formula you can do at home that is food grade. It's not excessively strong, so it's safe. And then we'll do a little bit of a recap of what I would recommend to use in daily life. Hey guys, I'm Dr. Alex Heyne, board licensed doctor of acupuncture and traditional Chinese medicine, and author of the health book, Master the Day. So let's jump in. So my personal opinion is, if you don't know where to start with traditional herbal medicines, start by fixing your digestion, because there's a combination of herbs, single herbs, and herbal formulas that are very, very effective. They are not excessively interventional, meaning they're safe, generally for long-term use, and they're unlikely to have significant side effects if you use them wrongly, basically is what I'm saying. But I would say, let's start with digestion as a core focus. You know, we say that in traditional Chinese medicine, digestion is the primary way you build your qi, or you build energy and vitality in day-to-day life. Our food literally is our energy source, our first energy source. You have what you breathe and what you eat. And if you can control those two factors, those are your nutrition for living life and having energy, having good qi. Let's talk about some single herbs first, because when you go through a doctorate in traditional Chinese medicine, you do learn which single herbs have a signature effect. But then you learn the most incredible magic of Chinese medicine, which is how sophisticated these formulas are. How did these ancient people learn a 6, 7, 30 herb combination had an effect on the heart, but protected the liver and protected the mucosa in the stomach and the intestines? It's incredible how specific and sophisticated this pharmacology is. And it is from probably 10,000 years or more of herbal medicine use. Let's talk about some single herbs that you see commonly come up that are safe and they are relatively food grade medicine. First is ginger. Ginger in particular is an herb that we use for dispelling what we call stomach colds. What that often looks like in English, plain English I should say, is that ginger improves gastric emptying. In addition, it helps improve levels of stomach acid. And on top of that, it can basically just improve your appetite overall. The second herb we're going to talk about here is cinnamon bark. The twig or the bark are called guizhi for the twig and rogui for the bark. And this is the medical grade stuff. This is not your Trader Joe's cinnamon you're sprinkling in your oatmeal. Cinnamon is often used because it has a more systemic effect on the nervous system as well as on the heart. This medical grade cinnamon bark and cinnamon twig we often use to treat palpitations and arrhythmias, issues like atrial fibrillation, AFib, great for anxiety, and it's great for insomnia. And finally, we'll talk about another herb called baiju or atractylodes. And baiju atractylodes is very good for what we call draining dampness. You tend towards being very phlegmy. You tend towards food sitting in your stomach, again, that delayed gastric emptying or gastroparesis. This herb is very, very good for. And often these herbs are used in combinations. So for example, one combination that has 2 out of these 3 herbs is called Li Zhongwan. Li Zhongwan means regulate the middle pill. And regulate the middle pill is a combination of 4 herbs that's very famous. Ginseng, or renshen, baiju, atractylodes, ganjiang, dried ginger, and zhigancao, honey fried licorice. This herbal combination is one of the best for strengthening what you might think of as the digestive fire, improving appetite, improving bloating in food babies, improving symptoms of just general gas and distension. It also improves levels of stomach acid. This herbal formula is very, very effective, also very safe, and there's a very similar derivative called sujunzitang, which means 4 gentlemen decoction. Now this is very similar in that it has renshen ginseng, it has baiju atractylodes, it has zhigancao honey fried licorice, but instead of the ginger, it has an herb called fuling or poria. Poria is a mushroom, and what it is very good for promoting getting rid of fluid congestion, right? It's a diuretic, and it's very, very good for helping it in the intestines in particular. So gas, bloating, fluid retention. So let's talk about just ginger, because this is something that you can get and you can go to your market right now. We're gonna walk through and show you how to make a traditional ginger decoction. But let's look at the actual science on ginger first, because the science is very interesting. So in this one particular paper here, the effects of ginger supplementation on the improvement of dyspeptic symptoms in patients with functional dyspepsia. So people with functional indigestion. Here's what they found. They found that a clinical study showed the effects of ginger on indigestion in 12 healthy volunteers. So this was a very small group. The study found ginger significantly accelerated gastric emptying compared to a placebo. So they felt hungrier sooner and that the food was out of their stomach faster. Now in another study, 24 patients, again a small study, they found that they were randomized to either receive ginger or a placebo for 2 weeks. And the study found that ginger significantly improved gastric emptying compared to a placebo. This is something we've known for a while, that ginger will help improve digestive function, not in everyone, but in many people with this kind of food is sitting in the stomach, they tend towards being phlegmy, they tend towards indigestion, excessive fullness. Ginger is very, very good for that. Now, sometimes it's not always easy to know where your symptoms are coming from. That's why we put together this free quiz. And the quiz is basically, according to traditional Chinese medicine, this is likely the root cause of your symptoms. This is basically a functional quiz we've put together based on the hundreds of videos I've put together here. And we've taken the time to make it so you can score yourself. These are symptoms of gallbladder problems, pancreas problems. And actually, we've taken the time to hyperlink to a lot of our best videos on healing with traditional Chinese medicine. I would highly recommend going to the link below this video or go to dralexheyne.com/quiz. You guys can download that quiz and just go through it as you're listening to this video here. Now, let's walk through exactly how to make a traditional herbal decoction. We're gonna start off here by taking fresh or dried ginger. Doesn't matter much to me, but keep in mind, dry ginger is much more potent. When herbs are dried, like fruit being dried, when it's dehydrated, it hyperconcentrates certain compounds because there isn't as much water content. So dry ginger is much more potent and will have much more of a bite, but fresh ginger works perfectly. I would recommend taking about between 10 and 20 grams of ginger. You can either weigh it on a scale like I'm doing here, or you can measure it in terms of, let's say, 1 thumb worth of ginger. That'll be quite potent. That may be as much as 30 grams. Take between half and 1 thumb length of ginger, finely dice it, and once it's sliced, put it into a pot with about 5 cups of water. And I want you to bring this to a boil and then turn down the heat and simmer it for about 40-45 minutes. If you are someone who's having gastroparesis or low appetite or food is sitting in your stomach, you can take this. When it's reduced, it should reduce to about 3 cups or a little bit more than 3 cups of liquid. And I want you to take 1 cup warm before or with your meals 3 times per day. You can do this for a week or 2, but after about a week, you should notice yourself feeling increased appetite, feeling hungry more often, food is not sitting in your stomach quite as often, and in general, you're feeling like your stomach is emptying a lot better. Now, you can take this as a basic ginger decoction. You can take it for a week or 2 to strengthen digestive function, and it works in particular for people who tend towards lower stomach acid. If you have a lot of burning acid reflux, this is not always the best remedy, and it can aggravate that if you have very, very high levels of stomach acid from eating a very tough diet or a poor diet for a long period of time. But for many people, this will be enough for their indigestion and to improve some of their appetite. And also, they may have less gas, because the stronger that quote-unquote digestive fire, the better they can digest foods. So taking this warm, broken into 3 doses throughout the day, you can take this for a week or 2, and the GI will often be doing much, much better. Sometimes I'll just prepare a big batch for 2 or 3 days and leave it in the fridge in a mason jar, and then just warm up a little half cup every single morning, with each meal. So try out that ginger decoction. Can be really, really effective home remedy for those 3 primary symptoms in the upper GI. Don't forget, guys, I work with a limited number of new patients every month in my clinic in Los Angeles, or virtually via telemedicine. You guys can just go to dralexheyne.com/clinic, or look at the phone number and the email below this video here and just reach out to us directly. And then don't forget, I have another great video on healing with herbal medicine right up here.